everyone, I'm Steve. Mark's working late tonight, and this is SmokeySteveAndMarc. Either welcome or welcome back, and happy Thursday. I hope everyone's well. I hope everyone's safe. Look after yourselves. Interesting times we're in. Things are opening up here. Pretty much by Memorial Day, everything should be more or less open. I'm seeing people who are returning to life. We can go without masks in a lot of places around here. I'm vaccinated, so it's free, like a giddy schoolboy roaming the countryside. It's great to be free. So, story time today. A few things inspired today's story time and the topic that's going with it. We're going to discuss anxiety, and I'm going to give you my first-person account of anxiety. So this isn't entirely academic. This is more of my experience with it from childhood to present, and it'll probably still be there tomorrow. It's worth mentioning because I deal with anxiety. I think a lot of people do, whether it's situational or just general or whatnot. I don't usually mention it when I talk about my mental health issues because I kind of just take it for granted. I mean, certainly it would be on my chart somewhere because I meet all the criteria for like generalized anxiety disorder. But I just kind of live with it. I kind of deal with it. So I wanted to give you kind of the walking tour of anxiety that I've had over time and how it's looked different and different ways that I've tried to cope with it. And it kind of dovetails into paranoia a little bit, but we'll try to keep it on the anxiety note. What inspired this? I got some test results back. And of course I got the test results back. It was from the CT scan that I got with the oral contrast, which tasted like somewhere between lotion and Maalox, and then that push they put through that makes you feel like you wet yourself. And I got the results back before the doctor had interpreted them. So I get the results, and I haven't heard from the doctor what it means yet. The report from the radiologist or whoever the hell looked at it, stomach, esophagus, everything's cool. Everything's groovy. So I was very happy to hear about that. They incidentally, however, found some things in the liver. So from what it sounds like, from what I could read, it's like 99.9% benign, but there's some clusters of things, some cysts, some other stuff, maybe some fattiness to it. Now, I drank for years, and I've been off and on obese for years. Something was bound to give. So they're probably going to order follow-up testing, from what I understand, but there's apparently not much need to be concerned. Some of the symptoms, though, that go with those issues I was having, though. So we'll see. But obviously that puts me on edge because it's not like it came back and it said, "You're fine, get out of here." What I was looking for an issue with was fine, but they found something else. Lovely. So we'll see. We'll see. Again, I'm not particularly concerned. It is what it is if something is wrong or if it's not. So we'll see. Like I said, I kind of hope it's just my hypochondria and I'm just using my insurance. But we'll find out. We'll find out. So anxiety. That's anxiety provoking. It's something I dealt with since I was a little kid. And a little kid doesn't have the vocabulary, at least I didn't when I was a little kid, to say, "I'm anxious, I'm afraid bad things are going to happen in the near future." And that they maybe don't make sense, or maybe I'm exaggerating, but I can't tell you what's scaring me, but something is scaring me. And the first big example of that was my second grade teacher. I would love to dox her because she deserves it. And I would love to say the nasty things about her because she deserves that too. She was a lay teacher, even though I went to a Catholic school. So she wasn't a nun. She wasn't obviously a priest. Very strict, very strict. And I didn't like her. I was a very high-strung kid, and it was very quiet in my house when I grew up. My parents are very mild people. I've never heard either of them yell at us or each other. I assume they had differences of opinion over the last 40 years, but I've never heard them fight. Not once. If they did, they kept it away from us, which is, good. So when I would go to school and teachers would yell, I was appalled. I thought, something bad must have happened if you're going to yell so much. And if the kid next to me was getting in trouble for something and they were getting yelled at, I would burst into tears, and as a boy, that was a little, embarrassing. But I thought they were going to go, "And you!" And I was going to be next. I was going to get some heat for something. Just by association, it was going to come off of this person. So I was always really tense in the stomach And in the head, like, I hope everybody behaves. I hope everybody acts right. I hope, and somehow me clenching my stomach and holding my breath was going to make all that happen. It was trying to make me feel like safe and contained and just get through the day. Just hope that kid who's always the troublemaker doesn't piss the teacher off, because if he pisses her off, then she'll yell, and if she yells, then I'll cry, and if I cry, I'll be embarrassed. And all of this felt entirely out of my control. Now, I was like 9, okay? And the only sign or symptom that seemed to show up at home was I would get up every morning and pretty much throw up before I went to school. I was never a breakfast eater, so we're talking like bile, pretty much. I had post-nasal drip for a period of time that year. I could not possibly have had it all year, which is kind of how, my mother had said, well, you were sick. I know, looking back, that I was sick from nerves, because as an adult, I've been sick from nerves, and that's exactly how it felt. I just didn't want to go. I was too scared to go. I couldn't concentrate. I would have been a good candidate probably for some alternative learning, or maybe some services. But again, I was 8. I didn't have the words to say, I'm afraid of my teacher because she yells and she's mean. Now, looking back as an adult, I would say, who the fuck would leave kids in her care? Shame on them. Who the fuck would pay for it? It was a private school. But at any rate, so the only indication to my parents that anything might have been wrong was that I was vomiting daily before school. But it was kind of acknowledged as a health problem. Like I said, I know looking back that it was not that. But so it goes. So going through school, I always had that impression that like something bad was going to happen. Something's going to break out. Don't make the teacher mad. So I was perfect student, teacher's pet, do the best I can. And I was always afraid somebody else was going to piss off the teacher, and that she, usually she, sometimes he, was going to freak out and yell, and it would be uncomfortable, and I would be uncomfortable, and it always made my stomach clench when all that stuff would happen. And again, felt entirely out of my control. I wasn't going to be the kid who said, yo, can you shut up and just let the teacher teach? I didn't come here to listen to you grandstand about fucking nothing. And you're just going to... Anyway, so... I didn't like high school. I always go back to thinking about Daria, the cartoon, and the quote, I don't have low self-esteem, I have low esteem for everyone else. The older I got, the more bitter I got about the whole thing. So it kind of took a different turn as I started to hit puberty. I was nervous about different stuff. I was getting fatter and fatter and fatter the closer I got to like 9th grade. I was about 260 when I was a freshman into sophomore year, and I was only about 5'9". I hadn't grown. I'm 6 feet tall now. I hadn't grown yet. And gym class anxiety. Some kid already hogged the stall to change in, so I had to change in the locker room and like change in the corner and hide everything, because I was like super body conscious because of where I carried my weight. It was mostly my chest and my stomach, which is fodder for teasing. The guys pretty much left me alone, for the most part. I was more like ignored than teased, which frankly I appreciated, but I was super self-conscious about it. Running, everything was uncomfortable. Anxious about being a fat person in school, and we just had gym class. I was too embarrassed of my body and too anxious to go shower after gym, so I'd freshen up as best I could, run up 3 flights of stairs, and be late for the next class. And do I smell? Do I still smell from that? I put deodorant on. I didn't want to freshen up. I didn't want to be late for class, so I didn't want to shower after gym anyway, or wait till everyone else was done and then shower and be late, and there was no excuse for it, and they only gave us like 5 minutes to do it because of poor planning and bad teaching. So again, I'm anxious in the locker room, anxious that I'm not going to get a shower and that I might smell, anxious that I'm going to be late for class, anxious the teacher's going to be mad because it feels self-indulgent to bathe after gym, because of the scheduling we have. Always trying to keep on top of everything, because I feel like if I'm planning, or if I'm not late, or if I'm here or I'm there, then everything is calm. Everything is okay. I hate being late. I always hated being late for things. So it's a challenge being with Mark, because Mark is late for everything. That's kind of his trademark. And it usually becomes a very light topic, because Mark is just more of a free spirit, actually. Time-wise, not that he doesn't respect my time or other people's or at work or anything like that. But if Mark says, we're going to leave in half an hour, you could put on Ben-Hur. it'll be a little while. For important things, if I say, Mark, I need you to come pick me up after work, if you could, he's there right on time, for that stuff. But for anything leisurely, I'll be ready in 20 minutes. 3 hours later, I'll be ready in 5 minutes. I'll be in the garden just for 2 minutes. And then he gets all engrossed in a task that he's doing. But aside from those kind of things, I hate being late. Late for meetings, late for work. When I was a kid, if I overslept and was going to be late for school, I just wouldn't go. I'd fake sick and I wouldn't go. I'm not going in late. No way. Not doing it. So around 6th grade, actually, I developed an ulcer. 6th grade was another year that I hated the teacher and hated the music teacher. And I skipped, I think, every Thursday, which is when I had music, because the teacher sucked. Sister, whatever her name was. She would try to teach for 5 minutes, get herself all pissed off, and then scream for the following 40 about what terrible children we were, and how ungrateful and how awful we are. Yeah, this was helpful in building healthy self-esteem in vulnerable children who are just finding themselves at a certain age. So I didn't like it, so I didn't go. Or I'd skip that class. It was like first period, I'd go in late. I ended up getting so sick that I missed like a month of school. And it was a mixture of, honestly, mental health and physical health. I may have burned a hole in my stomach. I remember them asking me, I didn't see a psychiatrist. I saw a gastroenterologist. And they did ask, what could be stressing you out? And I'm thinking, everything. Everything's scary. Everything is scary. Everything. Something bad could happen at any given time in any given situation. Aren't you paying attention? I was just wired for doom. Just wired for doom. Anything bad could happen at any time. I used to think I was even a little psychic because I predicted any number of bad outcomes in any situation. So when one of them would happen from time to time, I'd go, see, I predicted that. I predicted that. It's not a prediction. I just expect bad things to happen. So years of anxiety lead to a little bit of pessimism, or they have for me over time, pretty much because I start to expect bad things to happen. I get anxious, I get burned out, and it's not in a, live and let live, whatever will be, will be. It's more of an apathetic, whatever, who cares? I'm over it, it doesn't matter, it's bothersome. So whatever. As I got a little bit older, I found ways to cope with my anxiety. Now, I did enter into the world of psychiatry around the age of 18, and medications started to be something they would try to treat my anxiety with. And frankly, they haven't done a huge amount to fix it. I get panic attacks periodically. So aside from my baseline fear of the unknown, of what could happen next, of what if there's a knock at the door, what am I going to say if they do it? What if I have to pick up the phone and I don't recognize the phone number, and who just texted me and all that stuff? It creeps up. It creeps up right around here. So it's never really gone away. The medications they gave me sort of maybe took some of the edge off. But again, they took me more towards a place of apathy than a place of chill, if that makes sense. And I don't want to be numb to my surroundings. I mean, that was the challenge I pretty much ran into when I was working with my psychiatrist and talking about medications and anxiety. Well, there was two. One, I don't want to be numb. I don't want to be a zombie. If any of you have been on psychiatric medication for whatever, some medications people report make them feel like a zombie, that they have no feelings. Good, bad, they can't laugh, they can't cry. I've been on medications like that, and I don't care to be. So I've had to try different cocktails and combinations to get myself to a place where I feel sane, but I have emotions and I can express them, and that my thoughts are relatively normal. I still run them past Mark often, or employers or my parents or things like that. So there's that. Also, anxiety medication, the good stuff, isn't an option for me because I have a history of substance use. So things that are tranquilizers that work in like 20 minutes, I can't take. As needed means nothing to me. I would take it. Who couldn't stand to be a little more calm all the time? So I would take the bottle till it's gone, probably. I had a prescription for some tranquilizers about 10 years ago. And I'd go through the prescription in 15 days. I would take them quick. And I was taking them with alcohol too, to be really calm and really bring it down a notch. And I remember when I started picking up drinking, as a substance to try to, it was helping me manage my anxiety a little. I remember the first time I drank, I just went, it was like my shoulders had been up to my ears for my entire life. This was in my late teens, and I just went, first drink, it was finally like relief. It was kind of like, who cares what happens? I'll be fine. They can't kill me. So what if they yell? Fuck them, who cares? So what if the boss is mad? They're mad. I don't have to be mad. I didn't do anything wrong. And if they get mad at me, they're mad at the wrong person. You know, I was able to ironically think logically with a bit of a buzz on, because it brought me out of that irrational, everything's my fault, I can control everything by clenching my stomach and grinding my teeth. And that will get me through the moment. It's awful. It's awful. I'm terrible at flying. Holy shit. I've never used a bathroom on an airplane because I'm afraid if I get up, I'll fall through the luggage hold right in the aisle. I can't sit by a window because I'm afraid I'll fall out. So it's challenging to do, like, things in my life when the anxiety creeps in. So I get into recovery. Okay, so we go through, you know, my childhood where I was a neurotic wreck and throwing up periodically from my nerves. We get through high school, anxiety again, because people pretty much think I'm gay once I stop being fat, and I'm not sure if I am or not, and I haven't told anybody anything. I kind of think I might be. I'm not really sure. And it's, anytime I open my mouth or walk past a group of guys, I'm waiting to hear it as I go past. And often enough I do. So that gets me through high school. College, I'm nervous. I don't want to fail out. I don't want to lose my job. I'm on my own in Philadelphia. I have friends, but no other natural supports nearby. I don't come from money, so it's not like I can say, hey, can you put $1,000 into my bank account so I can pay the rent this month? You know, I went to school with kids like that, but that wasn't me. So I was always anxious I was going to be homeless or broke or something like that. So then we go through the drinking, and it's all anxiety. Certainly being in a psych ward gave me anxiety. Certainly being in jail 3 times gave me anxiety. Well, the 5 trips to the psych ward did. And then we get into recovery. So that's 2012. So in 2012, I would have been 30 years old. So arguably an adult. Well, I think 35, I was closer to an adult, but arguably an adult at that point. I'm still, at that point, dealing with anxiety. I'm in rehab in 2012, and I'm in a rehab, and the unit I'm on is all men. And it was 40 guys. And all the staff liked to work with us, because with just guys, the staff said, Steve, me didn't say, the staff said, it was easier to deal with because there was less drama when it was just guys. Now, make no mistake, men are terrible gossips, as much as any other group that gets stereotyped as gossips. So that wasn't that different. But at the same time, every time I would sit in a group, I'm like, I hope this goes smoothly. I hope nothing bad happens. I'd have to get up and leave the groups because I was so on edge, you know, that I don't know why. I don't know if I felt like I was going to feel pressured to diffuse a situation if something happened, because I wouldn't step in if I was worried that, like, we were going to lose privileges, that we would all get blamed. One of the things I hate most in situations like that, in treatment centers, is the kind of military style punishments, like one person makes a mistake and then everyone pays for it. All that does is turn everybody against one person who made a mistake, which is so conducive to recovery. It really, really wraps the person in love when they do that. And it would still continue there. And then I get my license back. A year after that, I hadn't driven in 6 years. I hadn't driven since I got my second DUI. So that was a long time. And scared. I got it back fast. Then driving. All of a sudden, driving became a very big issue. And if you watch the channel over the last few years, you'll see that too. I had developed specific phobias all over the place. The one that I picked up that was the scariest, because it interfered with my work almost, was driving. I became very afraid to drive. Our car. Not other people's cars, but our car at the time. We had a Buick. And it was in my name, but Mark pretty much drove it for work and everything. I couldn't get in it. I didn't even want to be a passenger. If we were going to go to Giant, I would walk to Giant and meet Mark there, and he would drive, because I didn't want to get in the car. And then I would walk home, and we'd pack the groceries, and I'd walk home and meet him here. So irrational. Didn't make any sense. I did this for 3 months because I couldn't do it. If I had to take a company vehicle to travel to a property or to a a residential setting to meet with some consumers. I would just barely, I'd have to stop at every rest stop. Can't smoke in the car. So I just have to make do. Deep breathing, a lot of music, and just try to plow through with it. Business meetings, terrified. Giving the presentations and trainings I do a good job. I know that I do a good job. I get good feedback. I give a good presentation. I'm terrified before every one of them, whether it's Zoom or in person. Any one of them. They don't know that what I'm going to be talking about, so they don't know if I mess up, which is usually an advantage of speaking to people who don't know what you're going to talk about. But I still get, what if they judge me? What if someone in the audience asks a question and I don't know the answer? What am I going to say? They're going to think I'm incompetent. They're going to think the whole thing was a joke. They're going to think I'm a joke. One time I was giving a presentation and I was losing my space in the beginning. Usually I'm anxious for like 5-10 minutes and then I kind of find my groove. And then usually I present for an hour. It depends. There's one training I do which is 8. Mental health first aid. It takes 8 hours to train a group, and it's usually with another facilitator. But by and large, they're only about hour presentations. And 10 minutes into one I was giving one time on mental health advanced directives, I already felt like I had to apologize for how bad it was going. I was already in my head script writing for the county administrator an apology for how terrible this presentation was going to be. Now I got to the end, and no, it wasn't my best work. My PowerPoints were all screwed up. I had to hand out printouts. It wasn't all that it could be. But it was okay. It was okay. It wasn't terrible, and I got decent feedback. But I felt the need to apologize even before I was done for how poor of a job I was doing. I hadn't even done the job yet, and I decided it wasn't going to be good enough. So these kind of anxieties, insecurities, paranoia, they all kind of wrap into each other a lot for me. I get them even working at home. The phone rings and it's work. What did I do wrong? The first thought is not maybe they're asking me to take on a new responsibility. Maybe I got a letter saying it's going to be a bonus. Maybe they're saying good job on this or that. It's always, what did you do wrong? My imagination. This is not how they treat me at work. I have a wonderful rapport with my bosses and it's a great employer. I'm always thinking, what'd you do wrong? What did you forget to do? You know, who did you slough it off on? Who called the CEO because you didn't return a phone call and it embarrassed the agency and tarnished the name and you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's hard to not, you know, it's kind of like I can't get over it. So I just kind of get on with it and try to develop some coping skills. Now, coping skills with anxiety, I think a lot of people are familiar with. Deep breathing. If I have one more therapist tell me to deep breathe, I'm not paying him or her. Because that is, you can Google that. Okay. They sound like they created it when they tell you to do it. Not that it's a bad thing. Deep breathing does help. It doesn't help in every circumstance. On the spot, it doesn't help. Like if I'm in the middle of presenting, like let's say I'm talking to you guys right now and I get nervous. I'd have to stop the camera to start breathing. But if I'm in the middle of teaching, I can't tell the class, hold on, give me 5 minutes, go in the next room. I got to think of something in real time, you know, that I can kind of do. So breathing isn't bad. Deep breathing isn't bad if you have the space and the quiet to do it. Even just 4 deep breaths, you know, inhale, hold it, in through the nose, out through the mouth is something that can be very relaxing. And there's different techniques people do. Mindfulness is something now that people think cures everything, but it's not a bad technique too. For dialectical behavioral therapy, it's one of the tools, one of the 4 components of it. And it's not a bad thing. You just be in the moment. Don't judge your judgments. It sounds very flaky, but it shows good results across a number of issues that people have in helping them cope with it, I guess. I try to use that and think, I'm feeling anxious. It puts a little distance between me saying I'm anxious. Like when I say that, I am anxiety. I'm anxious. When I say I feel anxious, it puts a little distance between me and the anxiety over this way. It's I'm feeling this way. It's not I am this way. I'm feeling this way. So it creates a little space where I can look at it a little more objectively and say, this is what's happening, but it's not me. You know what I mean? So that helps a little bit too. Talking to other people, reality testing is good. Poor Mark. He's my angel because a lot of times I'll have thoughts that don't make sense and I'll run them past him. And I'll be like, Mark, does this sound... No. Do you think I'm overreacting when I'm thinking... Yes. And he does it very lovingly, which is good. Because he could take it a totally other direction. And be like, you crazy bitch. No, none of that's happening. No, the neighbors are not secretly doing X, Y, and Z. So he's very supportive in that way. He's very comforting in that way. Other coping skills, journaling sometimes helps. Giving myself the idea, in a year's time, will what I'm anxious about right now matter? Will it even be a big deal? And usually the answer is no. Generally the answer is no. I could take more medication than I do. Talking with my doctor, because I mean there are non-narcotic options for anxiety medication that I could take, but one of the things that's important to me is to be able to work and to be able to function and to be able to drive a car and to be able to carry on a relationship without being snowed all day. And the medications that they would prescribe for anxiety would lower my level of functioning. They'd dull me down a little bit mentally, only because I've tried them, I know. Dull me down mentally, make me tired all day. I couldn't really do the kind of things I want to do. I couldn't work. I couldn't get up in the morning. I'd have to sleep in. I couldn't concentrate. I would have to nap in the afternoon. So refusing those means I have to cope with the anxiety in another way. Because if I cope with it through the medication, I can't do the things that I want to do and that are important to me and that help me stay well also. You know, if all I did was take pills, I could probably stay out of the hospital for the most part. But if that's all I did, I don't think I'd have a life. You know, if I never left the house, I never would have found a volunteer job that turned into a real job. You know, I never would have gone to the DMV and found out, oh, I can get my license back. You know, I never would have restarted life, you know, if I hadn't gone that route. But I want to be able to continue going forward and not be a zombie about it. So it's my preference, my preference to try to cope with anxiety using little to no medication. That's not an option for everybody. That's my choice to do that. I wouldn't judge you if your choice was entirely different because your circumstances are different than mine. I'm fortunate that I can manage it with some self-care and self-soothing. By the way, baths are so underrated. If you have a good tub, cast iron, maybe a clawfoot, take a bath for me. Ugh, so relaxing. Bring in the music, bring in the phone, bring in a beverage, adult or otherwise, depending on your perspective. I'm partial to bringing in an ashtray. I usually go to my parents' house because we don't have a deep tub. They do. And just make the world go away for a minute. Just let it go. I understand that's not an option for everybody either, especially if you have little ones or other folks around, or a stand-up shower because you have a smaller apartment like we do. But finding something to take the edge off, something to do for ourselves, and something to quiet the noise a little bit so we can just be. Just be. The mindfulness is grounding in the just be in the moment. So that's my spiel about anxiety. I hope you got something out of it, maybe a little bit of information about some tools that could be useful. If you have any tools that you think might be useful for other people to hear, definitely leave them below. You know, it takes a village of sanity to support each other, definitely. I would encourage you to speak with a professional. If you are managing medication or anything like that or thinking about it, definitely reach out. There's informal and formal supports for dealing with anxiety. Watching YouTube is a great way to relax. Not just us. There's plenty of channels. Watching funny YouTube videos that are mindless, that have nothing to do with anything for me is a great way to unwind also. Just get lost in... Right now I think I have Ms. Huzzy on. Just get lost in some silliness for a while and just relax. So we'll leave it right there. Thank you for sitting in for Storytime and taking an anxious journey. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. Thank you for listening to me. And thank you for watching. Please do subscribe. Hit the notification bell on your way out so you get the alerts when we have new videos and also when we go live. You can follow Mark and I on Facebook at SmokeySteveAndMarc, or on Instagram at SmokeySteveAndMarc, or on Twitter at SmokeySteveA. Our email address and our contact information is all listed below as well. Thank you again, and we will catch up with you tomorrow for TGIF. Thanks for watching. Y'all take care of yourselves. Bye.